This has been one of the most trying weeks that I've ever had in my 32-year career as an entrepreneur. I woke up early on Monday morning and embarked on a journey with 8 other people to host a mastermind group in Dale, Arizona, knowing that there was a tropical storm at the time that was hurling towards the panhandle and could potentially do some damage. What I didn't know is we went through the first day and a half of this mastermind group that 2 of my short-term rentals, I have beach houses down in Fort Morgan, Alabama, which is about 15 miles west of Gulf Shores, that tropical storm, which really was a minor threat, but you know what, not too much to worry about, would turn into a Category 2 hurricane by 1:30 in the morning when it would make landfall. And it made landfall about 7 miles from one of 2 of my homes there. It was the home, if you've seen the case study that I've created on how I turned a $55,000 annual revenue home into a $90,000 plus annual revenue home, what I call Bella Vista, which is literally a tier 2 home. It's 96 steps from the sand. Needless to say, I didn't get very much sleep that night. The house that I wasn't worried about was a renovation property that I'm in the midst of that was on the bay side, about 3/4 of a mile from the ocean, but literally only about 50 to 75 yards from the bay. I thought that would be okay. Lo and behold, that's the one that took on the majority of the damage. Bella Vista, my house that's right on the ocean, only sustained some cosmetic damage to some soffits, some deck railings, a little bit of paint, but nothing major by any means. Didn't have any windows blown out. There's a reason that house didn't sustain much damage. And it's because I've made investments into that property. As my revenues grew, I made bigger investments into that house. I prepared for the hurricane with that house as I evacuated my guests that were staying there, and most importantly, sent my maintenance crew down to deploy electronic storm shutters. Very significant investment with those storm shutters, but you know what's happened? By making that investment up front into those storm shutters, it protected me from something that I never thought would happen to me, and that's a natural disaster. But now, with the minimal damage, as soon as I have power, we've already got water back as of the shooting of this video. We'll be able to be back up and running. So I'm not going to lose 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks or months, because what's interesting is every house around me, on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, their windows were blown out and they had internal water damage, which, based on the devastation in that panhandle in Fort Morgan and Gulf Shores and Pensacola, Orange Beach, all the way down to the east in Panama City, they're going to be out of business for months. Why do I bring this up? Because this has been one of the most trying times that I've dealt with. Earthquakes, I've dealt with thunderstorms. I've been through that. I've been through a flood in Nashville, Tennessee, and other businesses. Never had to deal with a hurricane. And I'm lucky that I had great mentors that taught me how to prepare. I prepared with the storm shutters. I do have loss of income insurance on all of my STRs. Most importantly, I have enough working capital to be able to sustain if I was to lose all of my revenue for the next 3, 4, 5, or 6 months. What are you doing with your profits, with your short-term rental? Are you preparing for that rainy day? As someone that's done over 20 startups in my career, and I still own 4 businesses today, have built multiple businesses over $30 million, have been somewhat successful. I've had plenty of failures, don't get me wrong. I feel like I've stood on the shoulders of giants to be able to learn from them. But most importantly, I put what I learn into action. So at least one of those 2 properties will still be thriving. I have not been able to get down there yet. I still can't gain access. There's still standing water, still 16 to 18 inches in front of my house from what I'm told. I'm going down there in 2 days. I'm literally right now at another short-term rental that I own, a lake house in northern Alabama, just north of Birmingham, as we have our first guests arriving on Friday. Some very important lessons to learn. And I've learned this having to deal with those other natural disasters, from earthquakes when I lived in California to the flood in Nashville, Tennessee, and now the hurricane in Gulf Shores, Alabama, is that we have to prepare for the unexpected. When I was in my 20s, 25 years ago, I didn't do that. And that's why I want to share with you my 7 golden rules that every Airbnb host should be following. It's what has led me over the last half of a decade to be able to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio that is extremely profitable because I maximize all of my profit. But the first thing that I do with that profit is not pay myself. I pay that individual property. I reinvest into it. I have retained earnings for a rainy day. I'm preparing for issues. I'm standing on my boat dock right now, as you can see behind me. You see some sea-doos and paddle boards and kayaks and all that type of stuff. But if I flip around this way, you see behind me that the water level is down significantly. I've only owned this home for 3 weeks, but I'm here preparing from what I learned from the hurricane to prepare for the water to go down even farther. So 1, I've had to educate myself on dock maintenance. 2, I had to educate myself and really find people that live here actually, and find some mentors to help me understand when those levels go down, how tight my cables need to be to the trees that they're tied to, and how I manage the dock so I don't have any damage to it. We all have same issues with HVACs, with paint, with deteriorating flooring, all of these things. If you're looking to build long-term wealth, you need to have a plan for your finances, a plan for your home, a contingency for when these disasters happen. And that disaster could be an out-of-control raucous party inside of your short-term rental, or it could be a hurricane like I'm dealing with right now. But most importantly, I believe in one thing that has made me a successful entrepreneur over the last 30 plus years. And that's that we all need a coach. I would like to be your coach. This is a long journey. We're making significant investments, and I'm not here to talk about rev share or rental arbitrage. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This is about investing into appreciating assets and building long-term wealth. I'm a strong believer that when I make an investment into a property like this one right here in front of me, that I should never, ever have to make a payment on this house. Through my entire portfolio, from day number 1, I can tell you that I've been able to live and uphold that promise to myself and my family through prudent decisions that are made based on data, financials, some gut instinct, but most importantly that follow the 7 golden rules that you can get right here. Happy hosting, everybody.